Okay, now what I want to do is revisit a topic that we talked about in 4.1 and extend it just a little bit, or start from a different place. I want to solve using square roots on these two example problems. However, these don't look like the typical problems that we have used to solve by square roots, because remember, we've usually said that we don't want a middle bx term in order to solve by square roots. But here's what we can do. Using the technique that we just learned, what we can do is go ahead and factor this side. So I'm going to factor the left-hand side. And when I do that, I'm going to get an x, and then two things that multiply to 64, add a negative 16, that's a negative 8 and a negative 8. So I could rewrite this as x minus 8 squared is equal to 100. And notice that now all I have is a squared term on this side and a constant on this side. And now I can use square roots to factor because I have compressed this or condensed it to where I no longer have that bx term because it's been factored and we don't see it anymore. All right, so let's go ahead and take the square root of both sides. Not forgetting the plus and minus, squeeze it in there. And remember that squared and square roots cancel each other, so that leaves me with x minus 8 here. And then plus or minus, square root of 100 happens to be a perfect square. It's the perfect square of 10, so that works out nicely. And so then I can move the 8 to the other side by adding it to both sides. X is equal to 8 plus or minus 10. And so 8 plus 10 is equal to 18. 8 minus 10 is equal to negative 2. Why don't you try number 2 and see if you can do the same technique here. Remember, look to factor the left-hand side. All right, when you factor the left-hand side, you'll notice that 2 times 2 gives me 4, and 2 plus 2 also gives me this 4. So now that I have two binomials that are exactly identical, I can rewrite it as x plus 2 squared, and I'm ready to take square roots. The squared and square root on the left cancel, and on the right I have a plus or minus square root of 36. That's going to give me plus or minus 6. Again, that would happen to be a perfect square. If it wasn't, we know what to do with it though. We could have just simplified the square root as much as possible. X plus 2 became just an x and a minus 2 on this side, and then plus or minus 6, leaving me with x is equal to 4 or x is equal to negative 8.